It's Thursday!
I almost said Wednesday. It always happens, doesn't it? You just go, is it Thursday?
Is it Thursday? Seems like this week's been lasted forever. It's been a really long week.
A long week.
A long week. Oh.
It has. Well, how are we doing, folks?
Good. I'm glad to be doing this.
Yeah. This is a major milestone in the week, which means
Drink time.
that's it. It's finally got
That's
this
very
way. Yeah.
Yay!
Now, Amaro, how good is that?
What is Amaro? Oh, noise. Sorry, it's making noise on the computer. What is Amaro? Tell me, please.
Amaro, now there was a bit of contention here. I'll say it straight off the bat. Ross, after we picked these and posted them, Ross goes, oh, shouldn't we be doing Italian Amaro? Because Amaro is traditionally Italian. And we are doing an Italian Amaro. But we thought it would be interesting to do some things that people won't have tasted before.
It's also a bit boring just doing traditional. Right?
Yeah, so we thought particularly...
traditional
We're not so
Amaros.
traditional.
the other reason is because both of the Amaros that we're tasting from Australia are from some of our favourite gin producers. And we do sell a lot of Australian botanical gin. So that kind of inspired doing this tasting because things like Amaros and bitters are commonly put with gin, aren't they, Ross?
In what?
They are.
Ross's favourite drink.
What is
Negroni.
that?
So,
And they're great.
making, this kind of something slightly different.
Hi Liz, how are you doing?
Now, we're going to start off with the Imbroglio Amaro from Four Toms.
Imbroglio.
Um,
So what's the... Oh, okay, quick question. What is Amaro? What is it made of? How do they do it? Huh?
so, Amaro is actually a slang term from Sicily that refers to a person or argument that is bitter or cantankerous. And so it became a word used for people that were bitter.
Yeah.
And the actual drink itself originated around the 19th century. There's lots of different recipes, some of it from Sicily, obviously, where it got the name.
So it hasn't been around too long.
No, but it kind of came about at the same time that things like vermouth and cocktail bitters all came together. So Amaro itself is actually a really vague thing.
Yeah.
We have a very specific idea of what we think Italian Amaro is.
Yeah.
And that every town has their own version.
Yeah.
But it gets really vague when you've got, it encroaches on bitter liqueurs that also were made in places like Germany.
I'll put my hand up here because in Europe, if it's made in Italy, it's an Amaro. If it's not made in Italy, it's something else.
Usually they
So
call
it's
it
a
a bitter
herbal liqueur.
or a bitter liqueur.
Or a herbal liqueur or a hunting liqueur. So there's all sorts of herbal liqueurs.
Yeah, right.
The other thing with Amaros, you can see how it came out of the same melting pot of aperitivo as vermouth. Very similar style of production and flavour profiles. It's probably more apricot kernels and stuff like that, but still some of them still use wormwood in it. So like some of them are like both Amaros and vermouths at the same time.
Yeah, okay, right.
The other thing is that it's similar to things like vermouth and cocktail bitters. A lot of them, I trace back some recipes of different, because there were a lot of the time they came from different towns of Italy that have their own Amaro. And the reason for that was they often came from either pharmacies or monasteries that were making herbal medicinal tinctures.
Yeah.
Which is why they often included bittering agents like wormwood, or often is used gentian root. Gentian root.
Okay.
So it's a different bittering agent, which I know for a fact is used in what we're about to taste now, which is the Four Toms Imbroglio.
Ooh. There you go.
Sorry.
Investigated and found the buzzing noise.
It was our
Fixed
ice
it.
fridge. Sorry. Oops.
So these guys have referred this as an Amaro Australiano.
Ooh.
So they kind of asked themselves, if we were to pick local bitter herbs and fruits and spices to make an Australian bitter herbal liqueur, what would that be?
This.
This.
It sort of reminds me of everything at once. It's sort of a bit Campari, it's a bit not Campari. It's a bit,
Yeah, and
Something
this is the point of contention that we'll get to a bit later on. But
I also smell of that.
yeah, they also, I will say, apparently when they were coming up with this was the same time that they were coming up with a similar time to when they were producing their limited strawberry gin. So there is apparently in this recipe they still to this day use a little bit of strawberry gin.
Oh, it smells. Oh, yeah. Okay, now you say that.
So there's gentian root, there's some orange peel, there's some strawberry gum and some strawberry from the gin. There's also a little bit of ingredient which
Lots
I'll
of
talk about in a minute, but I'm just going to go to sipping.
Ooh, secrets. What are your thoughts, Ross? What are you sniffing?
Well, I'm sniffing. I can make a really great Negroni.
And this makes a cracker of a Negroni. Quite a light style Negroni. Yeah.
Oh, it's sweeter than I thought it was going to be.
It's sweet and bitter. And they openly say that that's their intention. It's both at the same time.
No, that's very Amaro.
Yeah.
Oh, Janina says, as a Campari and Chinois lover, I'm loving these.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the things that I really like about this is they use fresh fennel.
Oh,
Ah.
hey Janine.
Hey Janine! Woo! And the reason I like that is because it reminds me of something like Hey Charlotte's cocktail bitters. Particularly also in the colour helps as well.
What is that? There's something in there.
He's
It's Amaro.
and a seed.
Bit of aniseed,
And
yeah.
if you know your bitter liqueurs really well, you can tell that the bittering agent is definitely gentian and wormwood. Like, it's definitely...
Yeah, this
It's
is had
sort
a
of
great balance.
Sweeter up the front than on the palate. On the palate, it starts to taste a lot more like.
Middle to back palate, the bitterness really comes through and it's great. It's really well balanced though.
The back here.
Yeah, Liz had great balance.
Yeah.
That's really yummy.
That's well done.
It's,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more bitter. Bitterer. Now, so what do we do with this? Do we soda it,
I'm going to add some
garnish?
ice,
Oh, okay.
if we've got some.
Oh, yeah, that'd be handy.
Ice.
I put it back in the freezer.
Yeah. We did have to momentarily put our ice back in the freezer. We had about a 20-minute gap between tasting, so it was like a quick setting reset.
Otherwise, we just have a soggy bar.
So I'm going to add some ice to this. I'm going to see, because it's based a lot of the time on aperitivo and digestives, a little bit of ice and a little bit of soda sometimes, or even just a splash of water goes a long way.
Yeah. Oh, yes, and also, Vivian is doing another tasting at the moment. That is why she is not here.
So she may appear at some point.
Out of this wonderful door.
Out of the door.
Imagine-
She's in Studio 3.
She's in Studio 3.
Yeah.
Behind the door.
I'm going to add a dash of soda to this. I'm going to see where this goes.
Josh has said Prosecco, yay or nay?
I think because it's bitter, it can stand up against bitter fruit.
Yeah, it would work.
It worked?
I think it was the intention of these guys to, while they still wanted it to be bitter, it needed to be light enough to drink. Because a lot of traditional Italian Amaro is quite a lot darker, and it's harder to have in aperitivo sort of applications, like the spritzers and those sorts of cocktails.
Yeah.
So I think moving to a slightly lighter, bitter style gives it a little bit more flexibility rather than those really rich, walnutty sort of.
Christine, we've started with the Imbroglio, the portons.
So we're kind of going lightest to heaviest.
Liz has gone in with Prosecco. Please let us know how that goes, because...
It's very good.
Oh, splash of soda. I'm not a huge soda water fan, but that just makes that guzzleable.
Well, but sometimes you need the bubbles to release a lot of the aromas. I mean, that's what happens. And it's,
Oh, I want some orange.
Yeah, go on then. Now, we didn't tell anyone to get garnishes because it doesn't need a lot. It's got a lot of flavour, but we did have some lemons and oranges around already.
yeah, I tend not to have Amaros with a garnish, personally.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's pretty yummy.
To be honest, yeah.
That's really good.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Liz says delicious with the prosecco and with an orange twist. Heather says slice of orange needed.
Yeah.
I agree. Slice of orange has done the trick.
The juiciness that really brings it out.
Well, Ross has finished his glass, so doesn't want to try it with
Ross
us.
does like his Amaro, I will say.
You're like, no, I don't need to mess around. That's how I have it. That's really yummy.
That's really yummy.
Where do we think we can be drinking that? So we thought like prosecco with a bit of fruit. Can you put it in anything other than Negronis or spritz?
Any cocktail, you can use it to replace Amaro. You can use it to replace Campari. I find I really like it to replace Campari because there's one particular flavour in Campari I don't like, and I find this is a really good substitute. Also, really good substitute for Aperol if you've had an Aperol spritz that is too sweet.
Yeah. Okay.
Or any other Aperol cocktails that are too sweet, you can really make it more bitter and more complex. Also, just orange cocktails, like any cocktail that uses things like Cointreau,
Yeah, okay.
you can add a dash of this into, so like cut your Cointreau in half.
Would it be weird putting it into like a mulled wine or a sangria?
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I've used this in sangria when my sangria was too sweet.
Okay.
Because the problem with once you've made it too sweet, it's hard to pair it.
And also adding too much Cointreau goes a bit.
Yeah, so really good in. I use this as well in like fruit punches.
Okay.
Because sometimes you want to add flavour, but it's easily just ends up becoming too fruity.
Yeah, right. Lizzie said, put it in cake.
Interesting.
What kind of cake? An orangey cake?
Yeah,
I suppose. Yeah.
Well,
I see. What?
Where do we want to be drinking this?
where do we want to be drinking it?
Sunset, really balmy summer evening.
Well, traditionally, with or without ice after a meal.
But
But if you're going to go down the aperitivo path and start mixing with soda or prosecco, you definitely before a meal.
But it's good. I think
this is pretty versatile, really.
It is.
that's kind of why I like it, and I think also balmy evening is a really good point because like things that are a bit bitter can be really refreshing when it's hot.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's like when you have something that's too sweet when it's hot, you just feel like gross and sticky. But I think that really cuts through.
Christina said, oh yes, an orange syrup cake with this splashed on top.
Okay.
Yeah, syrupy, yum.
Could be good to cut through like something that's too sweet.
I like that. Alright, well.
Any last comments?
No, let's move on.
Yep.
Okay.
Could drink a lot of that. That's yum. Tick.
Really like
Now this is really interesting because this was kind of the point where Ross goes, that's not Amaro.
What do you mean?
We're about to move on to the Okar. Now, when this was first released, it was still released by under the Applewood label. The guys that run Applewood still make it in the same place in South Australia, but they don't label it under Applewood anymore. The reason for that is because it's kind of its own thing now, but where it started was it was originally released as two different products by Applewood. And they released what they called Okar and Red Okar. So Okar was more like Aperol, and Red Okar was more like Campari.
Quick question. They have Okar Gold. What's that?
Haha, this is where it all gets a bit complicated. So the reason this really came about was things like Maid and I started Australian vermouth, making not just vermouth in Australia, but using Australian bitter botanicals to make an Australian style vermouth.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the huge gin boom, you've got lots of Australian craft gin.
Yeah.
Then you've got Australian vermouth. And those two things are most commonly used in a Negroni. So the only product that was missing was a Campari or bitter substitute. So that's why this was made originally. Now, since it's changed over to Okar, they've released a tropical bitter, which is a lighter tropical, more aperitif style, and a gold, which is made for things like a white Negroni.
Okay, that makes sense, right?
Tricky.
So it's now way closer to Amaro than where they started, which was Aperol Campari.
Yeah, okay.
Which is why I felt comfortable putting it in here today.
Lisa says, she said like a tiramisu, not coffee. I actually had a tiramisu the other day that had Cointreau in it without coffee. So I reckon that would go well. Wow, this colour. That's crazy.
Staying true to their sort of Campari substitute roots, this does use very red colouring. Some of it is natural. I know that they do use Davidson plum, and a little bit of rye berries, also known as lily-pilly, which lily-pilly can give.
So the red colour in a lot of the Italian Amaro is often rhubarb.
This also does.
Oh, and gin.
I'm not sure whether or not this uses rhubarb. I do know the Imbroglio does use rhubarb.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So.
Strawberry. Doesn't say that it has any rhubarb in it.
My concern with
No,
this...
my problem with the planning of this is because there's about 300 or more really good Italian Amaros. I thought, oh, I've got all these great Amaros. But
the only problem with that is trying to pick one because they're all very slightly different.
Oh, this, yeah, slightly.
well, there is a very broad spectrum, and they sort of go across the whole.
And also, I'd say these are probably our best-selling Amaros.
At the moment.
At the moment.
Chino does pretty well.
That's true, yeah.
Problem with Chino is it moves more specifically towards one botanical rather than being a mixture.
Yeah.
But it's also, as part of the discussion, sort of indicative to Amaro. Like each region or village has its own Amaro.
Yeah.
So we grow, like Chino, we grow lots of
Artichokes.
so we'll make it with that. Or we grow lots of this, like rhubarb, so I'll make it with that. And it's kind of like...
That being said, the Imbroglio is from Sydney and this is from Garnishes in South Australia, so different regions.
Christine said, am I the only one who thinks this smells like fresh cut grass? I get that. Wow. Oh, Lisa says, I get wormwood. It's very woody.
There's a very herbaceous woody note in there.
It's a bit minty as well.
I get a red smell.
Matches you quite well.
It's funny because I actually smell a bit of the lily-pilly in here, which is that it's a really pink, purpley berry, but it has that green, waxy sort of gardenia sort of smell to it sometimes.
Yeah, I get the lily pilly. I also get a little bit of strawberry or raspberry or something.
With strawberry gum.
Strawberry gum. Possibly some... Maybe the woodiness is coming from something like wattle seed or thyme.
Heather said this is more of post-dinner drinks. I'm going to go into tasting. Beautiful mouthfeel.
Wow.
Gutsy. This is very different, I will say, to the original where it started, which was, I know for a fact, was also very cloudy and very, slightly different coloured red.
Wow, that is sensational. Wow. There you go. Woo!
It's also definitely more closer to an Amaro than it used to be. It used to be a lot lighter and juicier.
No, this will make a fun in a Negroni, fun in a spritz.
Yummy. Joshua says pronounced like Gamaraka.
Gamaracha. Yeah.
Gamaraka.
Gamaraka.
Excuse me.
Which is in South Australia.
You need keys.
Yes,
Christine says on a closer inspection, I'm thinking mossy rather than grassy. I think I can see what you mean by the gardenia. It's just like, wow. I want to know what lily pilly tastes like because I've never had it before. So,
I did make you a lily-pilly cocktail once.
did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
It can have a green, waxy sort of smell. It can sort of bring a tart, sort of aromatic cranberry note, which kind of comes in here.
If that didn't have that bitterness, it would be so syrupy and it'd almost be used as like a liqueur.
Well, it is a liqueur.
Yeah.
But, the idea of Amaro is like sweet and
Bitter. Mm. Oh, Lizzie says, really good with the Prosecco and a splash of soda. I'm going to go in with some ice.
I will say this is a bit on the bitter side for me, but
How much ice
Just a
is it?
bit.
I'll take
Oh,
a fair
perfect.
bit, actually. I do.
No, I can see a spritz out of this. Sure as
Spritz.
eggs.
Give
This
it a
is great
swirl.
because, yeah, it's the colour is just. I mean, I'm really hoping it's not full of red colourant, but I suspect it has a bit of red colourant in there.
I'd be curious. We'll ask Henry from Okar.
Indeed, we shall.
Question
Ask the
him.
man how it gets its colour.
Why? How?
What?
Oh,
What did you do to this, young man?
Mm.
can I please have some soda after you? That is yum. Yum.
Yum?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do think maybe there is some rhubarb in there, though.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, alright, the soda's won me over.
Yeah, right.
I will say, this makes bloody good Negroni.
Josh said, with the Prosecco, Andy said it looks like one of those beers that don't taste as good as they look. Only that this does. I agree, like one of those...
I also love that with soda, it actually foams.
Yeah.
Like it's got, maybe it's the oil or the sugar or the bit of
It's
both.
done something. Are we thinking a bit of fruit with that? I don't know if it needs it.
I actually want lemon. I'm going to see if I can cut through this a little bit.
Alright.
Mm. I'm going without the lemon, don't worry.
Hi, Blake. Blake Hall from Patient Wolf. Yes, indeed.
Blake's in town.
A great lineup of booze. Indeed.
Hey, cheers, Blake.
Yeah. And congrats on the new Pinot gin.
Ooh, cool.
I haven't
Anyway,
So we're still stuck on the summertime in that.
Oh, Janine says... Oh, Blake says, I love the strawberry gum in Okar. Yeah,
Yeah.
strawberry gum's good. Nice and sweet. Janina said with tonic. What kind of tonic?
that's
Right,
really
in
interesting.
Indian?
Lemon actually helps cut through this a little bit. Makes it, brightens it up a little.
Tonic.
Oh. Blake said, thank you so much. Hi, guys. Joshua says, can you shake it with ice like you can with Campari?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I wonder if you might get a really good foam out of that too.
Yeah, right. Oh, Christian says, I'm thinking of mixing this with Fossey's chili gin. The lime notes would complement this well.
I also dare say that
Ooh.
that
Ooh.
red fruit and the bitterness with a bit of chili might be really good with a squeeze of lime.
Yeah.
I'm going for a specialty martini there. I like this. This is a really good one.
Well, it's also because where the bitterness sits on the palate is kind of where chili sits as well. It might be a...
Bit focused.
Oh.
No, it might carry it.
Cool.
Lisa says, I reckon a slice of lime better than lemon.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get that though.
I think that's interesting. Christine will experiment and report back.
Yeah.
We can always trust Christine to experiment and report back.
It almost tastes a little bit of chili and capsicum. Like that.
Red, like a red capsicum sort of flavour.
I'm thinking, yeah, red.
But
Yeah,
that's
red.
more on the finish though. It's kind of
But like those bigger red chilies that aren't so spicy.
Yeah, and they can have that, particularly, do you know what it reminds me of? If you eat the white pith inside a red capsicum that's quite bitter, Like that sort
yeah,
of like-
yeah, that stuff.
that bitter part of the capsicum, I
That
think
stuff.
that kind of comes into play here.
Wonder what it's called.
Well, I'm just thinking this is mixing this in all sorts of fun ways.
It's really,
What are you thinking? Where are you wanting to drink it? What are you wanting to make?
okay, between the two of these, they're quite different though, aren't they?
Yeah. I've got it in mind. This reminds me more of the select. You're like, you're not feeling like that. You want to use Campari, but you don't want to use Campari. You know, like
Yeah.
it's like,
I find Campari's really flat,
oh, I like Campari.
but this is a lot more juiciness to
Yeah,
it.
it is juicy. You're right. So,
Also, the other thing is that I find pairing this with Australian gins in
Mm.
comparison to pairing Campari with London Dry British gins, it makes a lot of sense.
well, I'm just thinking so many things that I use Campari for. I'd want to use this for just to see how good it could be.
But I've definitely, in a Negroni,
Yeah, killer.
for sure.
It's
Alright.
made for it. Well,
Where do
Hot
we
night,
Hot night.
hot night,
Prosecco,
party
off we
time.
go. Yeah,
I think what you do is you have it with Prosecco to start, and then at the end of the night you have
have with
Negroni.
Prosecco to start and Prosecco to finish.
To during, and then Prosecco to
And if you're losing the oomph, then you have a bit of
Negroni.
Negroni.
Yeah.
And then you go back to Prosecco and you're laughing.
Okie dokie. Now, I was actually doing some research on Amaro Nonino.
Nonino.
Now, the reason we chose this is actually one of the best known Amaros, not just in Australia, but globally. These guys have a pretty big reach, with the exception of someone like Montenegro. But we were looking for something, particularly when we do our wine tastings, we always have a more expensive option.
Yeah.
And something that's a really high quality product. And these are really high quality products, but Amaro Nonino is known for taking Amaros out of the small town monasteries and making it like a really craft, beautiful product. These guys are actually one of the only guys who, they started out as grappa producers. They're the only awarded grappa. So they've won awards for their grappa in all of their international spirits competitions, and they're pretty much the only company to do that. And I'm pretty damn sure that the spirit that goes into making this liqueur
Rumour has it from Luke.
comes from their grape-based spirit or their grappa. So
I'm keen to try this. I have a quick question. Why is it such a different colour?
the reason it's a different colour,
More traditional Amaro colour.
it's more of a traditional Amaro colour. If anything, it's a bit lighter than some of the other Italian Amaros. Lots of roots rather than leaves and fruits.
Okay.
And B, often a wine base.
Yeah.
And C, barrel aging.
Okay, right.
So
That makes
it's
sense.
pretty traditional that this is pretty much a little bit more like vermouth in that it's based around winemaking, and so often it was like had a wine spirit and then ended in a wine barrel. That was how they stored it.
Heather said with the Okar, if using it in a Negroni, I think you would have to change the ratio slightly. Oh, and Blaker says, just found a bottle of Okar at home, having some with soda now. Delicious. Good choice.
I made it with a normal ratio Negroni, and it was pretty spot on. So I'd be interested to know, Heather, on your where you think it needs tweaking, because some people like more bitter, some people like less.
I'm saying, okay, so these ones are very different ABV. So that's a 25%. That one is a 24%, and then this one is a 35.
35 is pretty standard, but they can go from anywhere. I was thinking there are some towns in Italy and Sicily that make Amaro as low as 16
Okay.
and all the way up to 45.
Wow.
But they're sort of generally in that 25 to 30% kind of.
Yeah.
Would that be like a bit of a kicker if you put it in the Negroni in that case?
This is moving further away from like your Campari and more traditional Amaro, which is
This is a very traditional Amaro.
Yeah.
very traditional. And a lot of the time, things like this would be added to coffee.
This is too good. This is just too good.
Blake said, I didn't know Amaro Nonino was barrel aged. Thank you for taking me to school. Christian said, the smell of this reminds me of good old fashioned barley sugar sweets. And Blake has actually given us a recipe for his Negroni. I like Okar Negronis at 5 parts gin, 4 parts vermouth, and 3 parts Okar.
There you go.
I like that. Yeah, lots of gin, lots of vermouth. I stand with that. All right. Now,
Barley
notice-
sugar sweets are into
do
something
you know what
interesting.
this reminds me of? I was bottling this the other day, and the colour of it and the smell of it combining together has that woody, sweet sort of smell that reminds me of maple syrup. Just looking at it looks like maple syrup.
Smells a little bit like maple syrup.
Yeah.
I almost think it's more of a golden syrup than maple syrup. It doesn't have that mapley, I suppose.
Now, the other thing you'll notice, some Italian Amaros, which are often more brown, use sometimes like nuts and things like black walnut to bring in a bit of nutty apricot kernels. Black walnut's used a lot because it's woody, nutty, and bitter. But they do use things like apricot kernels as well, which is often seen in amaretto. So it's kind of taking the sweetness from a different place, if that makes sense, rather than the fruit sort of nature over here.
I'm just amazed by the colour of this.
It is so beautiful golden, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Now this is more closer to what Ross likes in terms of a drinking on the rocks kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There's no rocks, no, just like as it is.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
this little baby in the glass.
Ooh. Yeah, Christine agrees with me. She's saying golden syrup with this one.
On the palate, I get maple.
I always get layers and layers and layers.
Oh, a
It
little bit
does.
of maple, but it's not as maple as I thought.
This actually
Yeah.
tastes more of gentian and less of wormwood. If you know your bittering agents, it almost has a hint of angelica as well, which can remind some people of like a dry powdered ginger, like that sort of dry musky ginger. Now I will say this is a lot sweeter than
This is
a lot.
Amaro.
It's a lot sweeter than a lot of Italian Amaros, I will say.
Maybe.
Well, things like you think of Montenegro is really quite bitter.
This is really good.
Oh, this is just. Save this to last for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, Lizzie said this is delicious neat. And Heather has gone, yeah, definitely an end of the night drink.
Oh yeah.
You could almost. It's funny because it does have that great base spirit thing. That round coating the palate, juicy, rich, nutty.
Jenna says, yeah, there we go, adding to the bingo card. Ross would have it with more of itself.
That's
Yeah,
it.
very much you.
That's exactly
And
right.
Christy said, yeah, very drinkable. Wow.
It reminds me of when we did the nut liqueur tasting.
Mm.
'Cause it does have that sweet nuttiness.
It doesn't have a bitterness.
It does. There's a little bit in there.
I don't get that.
It does like.
This is quite the opposite to these ones in the structure. The bitterness is on the front palate, not on the back.
Right in the middle. On the roof of my mouth.
Okay, Blake says, we used to make a cocktail called a paper plane.
Oh yeah.
Oh
That
yeah.
had equal measures, Aperol, bourbon, Amaro, Nonino, and lemon.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, we used to make paper planes all the time. We used to serve them in coupes with a little bit of foam on top. And people always thought it sounded like fun and didn't realise it was going to be a bit bitter. But I really love a paper plane.
Christina says, I wonder how a shot of this would go over an affogato. This is almost like a interesting...
It's almost whiskey
and
liqueur.
yeah, that's what I was like, I would hate to say it, but I feel like this is almost like a whiskey liqueur.
This would be good with in a rusty nail with a bit of whiskey.
What's in a rusty nail?
It's usually whiskey and drambuie.
Mm.
But this with some whiskey would be great.
What about some Puni whiskey? Some Italian single malt.
Oh, ooh. So Puni Distillery and one of the Italian,
Have we got one?
one of the Italian producers of
Can you reach it?
Whiskey.
single malt whiskey. They do. This is not what we've got here, but they do a Islay cask finished whiskey, and I dare say a little bit of smoky with a little bit of sweet and nutty might be.
A bit of yummy, you think?
I reckon it'd go well in espresso mart.
Oh,
Espresso martini.
yeah. See, this is the other thing. Things like espresso martinis, people are pretty stuck in their ways about. But we used to do things when we didn't have any Kahlua, we'd swap out amaretto, which is a very Italian thing to do.
Yeah.
Because they often add liqueurs to their coffee, like grappa, amaretto, and amaro often go into Italian coffee. So things like this.
I think it just adds a little bit of nuttiness to it. Oh, that'd be
This
delicious.
In a little coffee shot, like a little shot of espresso
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Joshua says, sitting by the fire, eat neat.
Do you know where I want to be drinking this?
Where do you want
I
to go?
remember when we went to Venice and we went to the cafes and they had almost no tables to sit down at. The idea is you walk in, you take a shot of espresso or
Oh,
shot
yeah,
espresso
yeah.
with usually
Vodka.
Amaro or grappa.
Yeah.
And you stand there for 2 to 5 minutes, you do your little
Do
shot
it.
and you get out.
Yeah.
Doesn't need the coffee, but that's what I want, like this. Like, tiny little hole in the wall, you go in, you sort of enjoy it, and then you go about doing your afternoon sort of grocery shopping.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, go buy your fresh fruit and veg, I don't know.
You wouldn't want to put anything. You wouldn't want to put ice. You wouldn't want to put. Oh.
Uh-oh.
A single cube.
Liz said go well with a Christmas cake. Wow, you're really on the cake train
You can
today.
also treat it like, but you can treat it like, drink it like a whiskey. You
Hmm.
can drink it like a vermouth. You can drink it,
Like an Amaro?
like dessert wines though, like a port,
Yeah, like iced wine.
like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, or as Liz says, with Christmas pudding.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, actually, the ice brings out a little bit of bitterness.
Oh,
That's quite
okay.
interesting.
I don't want to bring up the goodness. It's really yummy, just how it is.
No, it's nice that it's brought out the bitterness. And yeah, Russ, you're right. The bitterness is not on the back palate; it's on the middle palate.
Maybe I will, just to try it, just so I know I've tried it.
Yeah, I want this in espresso bar.
Espresso mart.
Like that.
Or actually, keep it in the fridge. No
Oh.
ice. Keep it in the fridge.
Oh. Oh, it does bring out the bitterness. But not too much.
No, it kind of just brings
a
it
little
back
bit.
towards the Amaro sort of bitter.
Oh, yum. Well, that was, yeah,
This
delicious.
is why I saved it till last, because I knew it would be a bit softer, sweeter, but I thought it's a good place to finish a tasting.
Why do we want to be drinking that?
It's kind of a dessert wine, end of the night.
After a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely after a meal. Yep.
Maybe in like a port glass or a champagne flute
Or a brandy balloon.
or a brandy balloon would be good.
Ooh.
Or a glass like
There's
that.
something to swirl the sugars around in.
Joshua says the bitter was there, but usually hidden by the next sip. That's fair
Yes.
enough. Yeah, it's in the aftertaste.
Yeah, that's a good.
Do we have a favourite out of any of these? I think they're so different.
I actually am going to say this and this, not this.
Really?
Yeah. Because now that I'm thinking of it,
Oh, I'm definitely in. I reckon this one in a spritzer or Negroni would be sensational.
Yeah.
This is just on its own. Let's not muck around with it. So that's what I'm thinking. I mean, that's my favourite Amaro of all time, and it's on its own after meal.
Yeah.
But this is mixing. I think anything we could do with Campari, we could do with that, and it'd be more interesting in most instances.
She said going in with a bourbon and the Aperol will finish me off for the evening.
Ooh.
Ew,
A
with
what?
the Nonino. It will finish her off for the evening.
yeah.
Polish your right off.
I think these are also different. That it's just.
Well, this is my
Hey,
issue.
Vivian, come out.
Vivian is here.
Surprise!
I will,
What's the best one?
I will pour Vivian a little sippy sip of
The
the
Nonino.
Nonino, which we've just got to the
She
last
said
serve.
Delicious. Yeah, but it's very yummy. Why not more?
Yeah.
Exactly. Taking away from her.
We just did a tasting before this one, and Vivian was in the back room doing a wine and cheese night, and Eva came out of the tasting and she goes, "Did you fart?"
Well, because
We
it's
didn't realise
Because I opened the Thermere.
Vivian had opened the really
Which
sticky
is
cheese.
in the wine and cheese tasting we've got on.
Next week.
next week, exactly.
So,
It's delicious.
Yeah. Pungent.
and I was like, I thought you farted.
It
then
sounds like the smell
and then
just
we're
keeps
both
getting
sta-
more and
We're
more.
both standing here sort of like sniffing the door. Like,
Oh, it's Vivian.
it's her. But yeah, it was definitely the cheese. Anyway, what do you think of it?
Taste it.
Ooh. Caramelized apples and
Yeah,
yum.
nuts.
Mm.
You go nuts.
It's
Hazelnut.
definitely, I reckon it's definitely a grappa base.
Yeah,
Yeah, surely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then it's definitely,
Nonino makes specialty wrappers.
Well, that's what they started.
oh yeah.
You got lots of fruit.
Yeah, no.
Yum. Well, if you don't have any last comments on Amaro, do you have anything you want to say about Amaro? Yum?
What do you want
And I've got to back up this.
to know about now?
Right about now, I'm home in front of the fire.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow night. After tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
So is our wine and cheese night next?
Our wine and cheese night is next Thursday. So yeah, our
Please get your orders in as soon as you can. We are ordering fresh cheese.
tomorrow.
Hopefully tomorrow and maybe again next week. We'll see.
But get your orders in this evening, otherwise you will probably miss out. But you can always give us a call if you're behind, and we might see what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we're making a fresh cheese order tomorrow. Get your orders in as soon as you can. We will put a cut-off limit on wine and cheese orders. If we have a couple of bits of spare cheese, you may be able to sneak in, but we can't guarantee it.
No.
The cut-off is this evening at 9 p.m, so please make sure you get them in before then.
Or tell anybody else who wants to do it to do it.
And you can get half bottles and full bottles, which is super handy. It's just 2 wines. We've got the Suma Chardonnay and the Suma Pinot Noir that Vivian has prepared earlier. And we've got 2 cheeses, and we are going to be joined by the gentleman from the Vic Markets, who will tell us all about cheese.
Yeah, Hakim from
Right.
he's our cheese expert, and he's going to come and tell us all about it. And
Yeah.
it's delicious.
It will be on Zoom, so you'll get all that info and all that jazz, and da-da-da.
Little
And-
wine and cheese night.
And tell everybody to sign up to Gin Club. We need to get on it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Beautiful. Well, fantastic. Any last comments?
Too
No,
easy.
that was good.
That was great.
And I'm looking forward to the wine and cheese because I've tasted the wine with this cheese and cheese with this wine, and
So,
it's really bloody
for
good.
everybody at home, we've been doing some corporate tastings. Someone asked for if it was possible to do a wine and cheese hamper, and we went, oh, we
Sure.
know a guy at the market who really knows his stuff about cheese.
Yeah.
And so we tested it with some corporates, and we thought we'd do it with you guys.
And they have all just raved about
Great
it.
about it.
And also, a side note, not all of you may know that we have our own Facebook group designated for tasting. So you can find that on our Facebook and you can join to
It's called
become
the
part
Wig Cellar
of
Tasting Troop.
the
We
Wigs
have
Tasting
stuff.
Troop.
And we post little tasting notes, little experiments. We also invite you guys to write your favourite garnishes, your favourite mixes, your favourite ingredients, any of your tasting notes, any of your recipes.
Cool.
So we'll see you all next
Ciao.
week on Zoom.
Ciao.
Body
Ciao.
cheese!